Good evening, everyone. We're going to take a few moments to explain some information that is specific to reopening at the high school. I'm Scott Bradley, the new high school principal. I look forward to working with all of you and your students as we go through this process. First thing that I'd like to discuss is meal distribution at the high school. Students will arrive in the morning and breakfast will be in their classroom already in their first period class, so they'll just report there and they'll have their breakfast in the classroom. Lunch will be eaten in classrooms as well. That will be delivered by our cafeteria staff, and students will eat lunch in the classroom. Attendance, there's two potential attendance components. Um, Students will obviously be expected to attend on their in-person day if they're in a hybrid model, so Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday, depending on the days that they're assigned to attend. But there will also be an attendance component on days that students are virtual and for students who are fully virtual. That will require checking in with their teachers and will look different from class to class, but there will be a daily attendance piece where students are required to check in and make contact. Classroom spaces in the high school will be using desks and tables to allow for social distancing in the classroom. Additional furniture will be in there to provide barriers to keep students separate. Those spaces will be sanitized in between use from class to class so that students have a safe space to work in the classroom. For building movement, students will move from class to class as they would in a traditional schedule. During that time, when they're in the hallway, they'll be required to wear their masks, face coverings. There will also be signage around the building to guide the movement to separate students from one side of the hall to the other to try to minimize interaction and contact between students. Grades will be reverting back to traditional grading system that students and parents are used to. Uh, Grades that students would typically see on their report cards. Teachers will be inputting that information into school tool, and that will be done on a regular basis so that you have access to that information to see how your students are progressing and what work is being completed. The BOCES will be running a regular 5-day schedule. So our students who attend a BOCES program will be offered transportation 5 days of the week, even on the days when they're attending school virtually. We'll still be transporting them to their regular BOCES program in the morning or the afternoon. There's been some questions surrounding lab minutes and Regents exams and things like that. Please know that we are staying up to date and current with guidance from New York State Education Department. The question specifically about lab minutes, there's been some flexibility given, and the 1,200 lab minute requirement for students to take certain science exams. There's some leeway with that in terms of where students complete that. So it'll be a combination of lab minutes that are completed at home, but also lab experiences that are completed in the classroom. It'll be a combination of the two. At this point in the year, there will be no extracurricular activities. Obviously, we'll be monitoring the situation, and as things change or progress throughout the school year, we'll adjust accordingly. And if that's something that we're able to offer later in the year, then we will do so. To start the year, there will be no extracurricular activities. For arriving at the high school, there will be 2 points of entry for high school students. Students who ride the bus will enter the building through the main front entrance. They'll be exiting the buses in a staggered fashion. So buses will come and students will get off in about 30 seconds. So there's kind of a slow filter into the building rather than all the students disembarking from the bus at once and filing into the building. So it'll be a slow, controlled movement for students to enter into the building. Parents who are dropping their students off at school will enter in the parking lot to the west of the building and be asked to follow the access road up between the building and the parking lot that goes to the fitness center entrance towards the rear of the building. Students who are being dropped off will then enter the building through that entrance. This will also be where students who drive themselves to school will be asked to enter. Because of the shortened school day, we've had to adjust the high school schedule. We'll be starting at 7:30 a.m. and students will be in class until 1:30 p.m. As a result of that, we have 7 periods now, and periods are between 44 and 45 minutes. We're working with schedules to maximize the offerings that students requested to take. And if there are conflicts or issues with requests, I will be working with students individually to set up the best schedule for their needs. Students who are engaged in fully virtual learning, or for students who are doing virtual learning on their off days in the hybrid model, there will be an attendance component, as mentioned before, where students will be checking in with their teachers, and that's a daily requirement. They'll have access to their teacher throughout the week. Every day, a teacher has built into their schedule a period during the day where they'll be accessible to students who are learning from home. They'll also have time after school to connect with those, after the student's school day, to connect with those students. And then on Wednesday, we'll be providing time for teachers to have office hours and host virtual classes. And those schedules are going to be consistent. So we are going to work with the teachers so that they set schedules and office hours, and we'll post those times to the high school webpage so that if you have questions about something that your student's working on, or you know your student needs additional support, you can access that information, find out when a teacher is available, and set that up so that the student can meet with the teacher, get the extra help that he or she might need. The platform that we'll be using for those virtual meetings and office hours is Zoom. We found it's helpful to be consistent, and we'll be asking everybody to use that Zoom platform. Materials and supplies at the high school. There are some elective classes that obviously have very specific materials, and it will be at the teacher's discretion if things are able to be sent home based on quantities and what's available. Any material that is used in multiple classes will be sanitized in between use from one period to the next. But again, it will be totally at the teacher's discretion what they're able to accommodate as far as sending materials home with students. Finally, some general expectations of students for this to be successful. We'll ask that students maintain social distancing whenever possible. When they're not able to, ask that they wear a mask or a face covering, and that includes during any transition time in the hallway. We ask students to use good hand hygiene, to wash their hands, or use hand sanitizer frequently, and really important that they attend school in person on the days that they're scheduled, and then engage with their teachers and attend virtually on any of those remote learning days. We're really excited to work with your students this year. We appreciate you taking the time to get all this information. I know that there's probably more questions, and if you have questions that weren't answered today through this section of the presentation or through the district section, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Jason Shetler, the assistant principal at the high school. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, make sure that you are well informed. Again, we appreciate you entrusting your students to us on a daily basis, and we're excited to get them back in the building. Have a great evening.